If you are enjoying this podcast and other podcasts on the Dragon Wagon Radio Network, be sure to check out the Dragon Wagon Shop. Awesome t-shirts and mugs from your favorite shows so you can tout your podcast pride, all while supporting your favorite indie podcast network. And make sure to check it often for new items and limited time designs. So shop now at dragonwagonshop.com and get your dragon swag on.
In a mythical land of magic beasts and blades known as Burbank, California, an independent podcast network sets off for the greatest adventure of their pitiful lives. This is Dungeons and Dragon Wagon.
Hello and welcome to Dungeons and Dragon Wagon, the Rhyme or Reason, a D&D inspired homebrew role-playing game recorded and released out into the world for your entertainment. And by golly, I hope you are entertained. And we must say, as always, this podcast is best in headphones. Now, that's not to say if you're listening to it somewhere in your car or via your Alexa or your Google, you can be like, oh, hey, Google, play Dungeons and Dragon Wagon, and it'll play it for you because that's just how cool we are. Still listen to it, but if you have the opportunity to listen to headphones, please do so. I am your host, Jake Lloyd. Find me on Twitter at LiquidJake, Jake Lloyd on Instagram. I am the co-founder of Dragon Wagon Radio and host of podcasts like Elaborate and What the Heck Economics, and I am playing the half-orcan fighter named Junk. Say hi, Junk. Hey, little buddy. Junk, you had a serious go of it last episode. Yeah, you know what? I was faced with some fears. I went through some stuff, but I'm feeling pretty good, and I think I'm gonna write a song about it. Oh, well, I look forward to hearing that. But of course, I am not here alone, because that is not a fun game. I am here with my acquaintances in adventure. To my left, she is a writer, a poet, and a friend to the animals. Find her on Twitter and Instagram at Alexandra Hoy. It's Alexandra Hoy.
Hey, I think I'm more than an acquaintance at this point.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to introduce you that way because I want you to be your own person, not just the host's girlfriend. I'm a feminist.
Who said you're the host?
I did because I'm a sociopath. And of course, Alexandra is playing the noble human ranger Adeline. Say hi, Adeline.
Hello.
Adeline, you also came face to face with something you were not so thrilled with last episode.
Yes.
You also learned something.
I learned a lot of things. Mostly that I have a half-brother, which is pretty mind-blowing. But
yeah, well, I look forward to hearing more about your half-brother and watching your relationship blossom.
Oh.
And of course, to her left, he is the man with no foe. He is a writer and director. He is as tall as he is over analytical. Find him on Twitter at Matt_Hingstman and on Instagram at mHingstman. It's Matt Hingstman.
Hello.
How are you today, Matthew?
Good.
Oh,
good.
What did I say? I said you were as tall as you are over analytical.
Yes.
I'm taking it back.
Okay.
He is, I'm going to do it again. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Ready?
Okay.
He is as tall as he is consistently late to D&DW recordings. It's Matt Hingstman.
Hi.
And of course,
I see what I did.
Matt is playing the Shadow Elf Rogue Matson. Say hi, Matson.
Hi.
Matson, how are you feeling today?
And I'm fine.
So the same as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And of course, our guest of Quest back for a second week. We are incredibly happy to have him. He is an actor and illustrator, host of Rider Dice, as well as Welcome to the Dungeon Hole. Follow him on Twitter at Andrew Mena. And if you want to see some sweet, sweet illustrations, make sure you're following him on Instagram at the Andrew Mena. It is Andrew Mena. Andrew Mena.
Hey guys, thank you so much for that clapping thing. That's something that I've never done sports, so I really enjoyed that.
This is a sport.
Welcome back.
That's how I like to think of it.
Are you excited?
I'm very excited. Thank
to
you for having me back.
Dive back into Fen Farrell.
Yes.
Fen Farrell is an interesting fellow.
Thank you.
To say the least.
I think so too.
And at this point, we should do the deed, hand the reins off to our fearless DM. He is the creator of these lands and our almighty God. He is host of At Myth Understood. He is a writer and improviser. Follow him on Instagram at the Paul Bianchi. It is the Paul Bianchi.
The deed has been did.
Yeah, I did the did.
Yeah. I'm really happy to be doing the second part of this chapter because we were all on a magical paper boat, and now it's time to get back to hard-hitting reality, right?
Right.
No.
No?
You mean by jumping back into the game as 5 adults in their 30s who probably should be doing something better with their life today?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, then
That's
yes.
what I mean.
Perfect.
Of course. So, if everyone's ready, we're going into chapter 7.2, Snakes in the Grass. And away we go. Ask any elf in Rymor who the Softlands belong to, and they will answer Kaladesarena, Kaladesana, or they belong to everyone, and they belong to no one. And yet, when the exiled clans of Sibulans traveled east from King's Promise in search of a new homeland, the elves were quick to defend the Softlands and their way of life from the snakeskin outsiders. Most moved on, traveling further east, but other clans had grown weary of traveling and preferred to stay and risk conflict. Fen Farrell is quite aware of these conflicts along the Sansi River and considers this as he comes to first on the magical boat made of paper. Sansi Village is drawing nearer on the left side of you as you sail south beneath overarching trees dripping with flowering hanging moss. The magic of the miraculous floating paper boat and the natural beauty of the river are unlike things you have ever seen.
Wow, that is some nice moss. Is that Sansi on the bank of the river over there? I'm just roused, so I probably still have some sleeps in my eyes. Let me rub those.
Oh, this is really unusual. I didn't know when we awakened from the Moonwalk that we would still be on this paper boat.
How long were we traveling for?
I don't know. Is everyone awake? Lady Adeline?
What? Oh, we're still on this boat. Right.
I'm glad you woke up. I was just about to slap you awake.
Never fear, new sister. I would not allow this tiny man to slap you awake. Here, I have made you some breakfast tea.
Oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you.
Yes, I had to heat it up in my hands with my own body temperature.
Oh,
We do not have a kettle on this tiny paper boat.
Right.
Just throwing that out there.
That's true. Very true. But thank you anyway.
Well, you know, I'm doing my best. I've never had a sister before, so this is all a new thing for me.
I've never had a half brother, so
Oh, I feel very special.
Junk approaches the group from port side of the paper ship.
Hey, it's about time you guys woke up. Man, I've been up for hours. This is a really beautiful ride we've been on here.
Right? Did you see that moss?
That's a beautiful moss I
There's a
saw.
lot of beautiful moss.
Yeah, this is quite a place.
there's 2 of them.
So, Fenfarel, should we be on guard as we approach Sansi Village? I recall your father saying that there were Sibulans afoot, perhaps creating trouble in the village.
When dealing with the Sibulans, it is always best to be on guard.
I mean, I'm sure we'll be fine. We've met a Sibulan before, and he was incredibly nice. In fact,
Junk tips his bowler hat.
he sold me this fancy hat.
It is a very nice hat. I will not argue this with you.
Fen Farrell crosses his arms and kind of looks skeptically up at you.
But is every half-elf just like me?
Maybe I've never met more than one half-elf.
Following my logic, then perhaps we should not assume all of these Sibulans are precisely the same as the one you have encountered.
That's a very good point.
During this conversation, you notice that the north dock of Sansi Village is drawing closer, and you're going to have to find a way to make the ship stop.
Hey, is that where we're supposed to be stopping?
Hey, that is a dock, so I would say probably.
All right, we're coming in a little fast, don't you guys think?
That's a good point, Junk. Are there no paddles or rudders we can use?
I don't know.
Junk starts blowing in the sail in the opposite direction.
Junk, I don't think
Junk,
that's going to
blow harder,
work.
Blow harder, Junk.
No, Junk.
Oh my God. Wow,
Maybe
I'm really
we
lightheaded.
could we find something to anchor us to slow our speed?
I'll look around, and I'm just going to roll to see if there's any sort of anchor or anything we can use to help slow us down. That's an 8.
Yeah, as the boat is literally a giant boat made out of paper, there is nothing of note on the boat at all.
Fen Farrell smirks to himself as he looks around the boat.
Don't worry, friends. I will handle this one.
He puts his left hand in the air, which glows orange-yellow. He places his flat palm against the bottom of the boat and casts guidance.
Yeah, and with the casting of the spell, a golden-colored vapor trail forms leading from the bow of the ship to the awaiting dock. The ship inherently follows this path as if guided and comes softly to a stop beside the old dock.
That's impressive.
Adeline, seeing this, is very pleased to see a good side of magic for a change.
Meanwhile, towards the back of the boat, Junk has a torch out, and he was just about to set the paper boat on fire, thinking that if it sank, it would be the best case scenario.
Oh, good. Oh, good. You guys got. Oh, this is great.
He blows the torch out, and then puts it in his pack.
You have powerful lungs, friend.
Well, yeah, I've been reading a lot more.
Sometimes, Junk, your logic doesn't resemble the rest of our logic. Junk, actually, while I have your attention, can you... The walls of this ship are pretty high. Could you... I'm going to risk it, but can you throw me over the side of the boat so I can land on the dock on the other side?
Yeah, I can give you a hand, little buddy.
Yes, very gently, please.
So Junk obliges, and he lifts up Orny.
And rolls a clumsy check.
Yeah, of course. That's a 5.
Ooh, 5. Junk lifts up Orny very carefully and tosses him on the other side. The very curl of the tip of Orny's boot, however, clips the edge of the ship.
Oh, no.
Orny does a forward roll and lands expertly thanks to his athletics check. He puts his hands out.
Excellent! We are here!
Fenferal gives a golf clap to the little acrobatics show that he's just witnessed, and then climbs out of the boat.
Junk hops over the edge of the boat himself.
Matson hops over.
Adeline kind of does a little jump over.
With your passive perception, you can see that it is late morning in Sansi Village, and it is eerily still. To your right, you can see the back of buildings that make up the town square, a mix of stone and wood and tent structures. Ahead of you, there's a stable with 7 lopers, noble antelope-like creatures that are revered and cared for by the Sansi elves. Beyond, a high stone wall and the ancient stone building known as Sansi Shrine. And then directly to your left is a wooden shack that Fenferal knows belongs to Saga Talajak, who is the purveyor of the Moonwalk in Sansi Village.
Is this village usually a little bit more lively, Fenferal? It kind of looks like nobody's home.
I was thinking the very same thing, but if there is anyone around in this place, it would be Saga. She is the guardian of the Moonwalk, just as my father is, and this is her dwelling. But hold on, I want to see if I know any of these guys.
Fenferal jerks a thumb over his shoulder at the lopers in the stable, and then he walks over to get a better look.
That's a perception roll.
It's going to be a 12.
So you've been to Sansi Village before, and when you look at the stable, you recognize 4 of these lopers specifically. You have a special bond with the loper at the very end. You've cared for this one in times of sickness. And so when it sees you, it gets very excited and starts licking the air, like hoping that it'll lick your hand as you get closer.
I waddle quickly over to this guy, and I pull out an apple that I have.
My old friend Elliot, here you are.
And I hand feed him this apple.
Elliot is excited to eat the apple, but it appears equally excited to greet you. And so it's like eating the apple and then like going over to lick your hand. Like, but I'm also happy to see you, but I really want to eat this apple.
I'm providing pets as I feed him.
Mm-hmm.
Junk walks up behind Fenferal.
Hey, who's this little guy?
Well, this is Elliot. I've known him since he was a fawn.
Well, these are really beautiful animals.
Yes, the herd is a graceful and beautiful thing.
Junk reaches over to the loper that's closest to Elliot and wants to pet him.
Roll for animal handling.
Ooh.
It's a 15.
The female loper that you reach for, she has no horns like her male counterparts, and she graciously accepts your pets.
Oh, yeah, you're a pretty girl, aren't you? Hey, look, she likes me, Matson. Maybe one will like you.
Matson rolls his eyes at this. Is this the best use of our time, really?
Kindness is never a waste of time, my friend.
That may be, but Matson does have a point, as it would appear the entire village is missing. So maybe you ought to check on Fenferal's friend, no?
Agreed.
The small man is correct. Here, my friend, I know you are jealous.
And Fenferal walks over to Matson
So here, I was saving it, but you can have it.
and hands him an apple.
Matson takes the apple from him. Gee, thanks.
Fenfarrell pats you on the shoulder as he walks by.
Don't mention it.
As soon as Fenfarrell walks away, Matson tosses the apple to the ground.
Oh, that's wasteful.
Fenfarrell leads the party back to Saga Talajak's hut. It is a wooden shack that is painted a light blue with an open door that is waiting for you.
As Fenfarrell gets close to the open door, he throws up his hands to be like, proceed no further, non-verbally. And then he touches his own throat, and it glows orange for a moment as he touches his throat. And suddenly his voice booms out, and he says,
Saga, my friend. This is your good friend, Fenfarrell. How are you? Well, I hope. I have brought friends for you to meet. We are outside. I do not want to come inside unless we have your permission, in case you are indisposed or nude.
From within the hut, distant and muffled, you hear,
You may enter. Quickly, please. I require your aid.
Good thing we came here.
Junk is mouth agape, eyes just absolutely wide open, mesmerized by this bit of vocal magic that Fenfarrell's done.
That was a verbal yes. We may go inside.
Huh? Oh, yeah, great, awesome.
He snaps out of it and immediately starts walking towards the hut.
You think she has any of that love nut stuff? That stuff was delicious.
Inside, you find a lush canopy bed to the left, a large old bureau in the back left corner. On the right, a desk covered in wands and paper, as well as what is likely, based off of your knowledge, an enchanting table. There is no sign, however, of Saga Talajak herself.
Where is she?
Saga, can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can hear your voice. I'm in the wardrobe.
Okay, that is not usual. Are you stuck?
Come on now, you've never been stuck in a wardrobe before? It's happened to the best of us.
No, I've never owned a wardrobe.
Junk walks right over to the wardrobe and tries to open it.
Amazingly, it doesn't budge.
It won't budge.
Is it broken?
Matson looks over to Adeline like, what's about to happen here?
She kind of nods, also very suspicious.
Fenfarrell is not suspicious whatsoever. He walks over to examine the wardrobe. It's gonna be a hot 9.
From what you understand by looking at it, Junk's brute force should have just pried off the doors of this old wardrobe. And so you get the sense that something else is sealing this.
By my estimations, Junk, your muscles are better than this poor construction on this wardrobe.
Oh, thank you.
You should have been able to rip it right open.
You know, you're right, I should have, thank you.
There perhaps are dark magics at work here.
Oh, this reminds me of a game I used to play in my youth. It was a game called 7 Minutes in Heaven, and I used to spend so much of my time at parties with other young people just investigating the nooks and crannies of each other's bodies in the dark.
You spent more than 7 minutes in heaven?
Collectively, yes.
I see, but that seems to kind of disrupt the spirit of the game. 7 minutes only. Otherwise, you are being selfish.
I think this poor woman's been stuck in here long enough.
Perhaps, but perhaps she is in heaven.
I can say I am most definitely not in heaven. I am indeed stuck in this wardrobe. However, it was something I did of my own volition. The Sibulans came, and so I locked myself in here for protection. Unfortunately, I had to do so with an enchanted wand that I had to leave across the room. And so now it would seem that I am stuck. If someone could just find the wand on the other side of the room, you could set me free.
Junk has already been kind of walking the room because once they started talking about 7 Minutes in Heaven, he recalls being excluded from that game when he was a kid amongst all the humans. So it made him sad. So he's already looking down for this wand that she speaks of. And I'll just roll a perception. It's a cold 12.
Well, looking down at the table, you find 16 carved wands, various types of wood. Some are inset with stones.
Junk starts rummaging through the wands, picking them up and examining each of them frantically.
Well, gee, wardrobe lady, there's so many wands here. Which one is it?
It should be the one on the very top of the pile that's pointed towards the wardrobe.
Junk turns back to the party with just handfuls of wands, all pointed in every different direction. He's dropping a few to the ground.
I worry that our friend has already touched the wands, therefore making that piece of information no longer valuable to us.
Oh dear.
Can you describe it, perhaps?
Oh dear. Okay. Well, it's made of ash and has a turquoise stone set into it.
Adeline, will you help him?
Adeline walks over to Jonk and starts looking at all the wands to try and find the ash with turquoise.
I know what ash and turquoise is.
He doesn't.
So Adeline starts looking at first at the ones in his hand, and we'll look over at the table as well. That's 11.
Adeline does not find the wand in Junk's hand. However, she does find a wand that is underneath the table now, perhaps from the scrounging that occurred, that matches the description.
Oh, here it is. And she gets down on her knees and grabs it from far beneath the table, and she walks back over and hands it to Fenfarel. I think this may be better done by you, or by you, Orny.
Good eye, sis.
Thanks.
I'm getting used to saying that. It was exciting to me to say it.
Thanks, bro.
I like to hear it, too.
I'm excited just being around it.
All right, now let's use this wand.
And Fenfarel strikes a magical pose, right hand forward, left hand in the air.
Ooh, so fancy.
Thank you.
And then, with all of his magical energies, throws his will outward through this wand.
And Adeline and Orny are going to have to roll an athletics check.
Oh. That's a natty 20.
With Fenfarel's action, the doors of the wardrobe swing open with such force that Orny gets struck in the face for 1 point of damage. Adeline turns away, however, with such dazzling grace as if in sync with her half-brother. Orny then pulls himself back to his feet, rubbing his face and checking his glasses for cracks.
Ow. That sort of bang never happened during 7 minutes in heaven.
Fenfarel reaches down and grabs the glasses out of your hand and smiles, and a little orange light goes around the edges of the glasses, mending any breaks in them, and he hands them back down to you.
You are so handy. Thank you.
Yes, if you break anything, just come see me. I will help you.
And with that, you also see Saga Talajak. She is sitting at the bottom of her wardrobe in torn lavender-colored robes. She's bloodied and disheveled. She's also old with long curly gray hair and very large glasses. She's earthy and free love. She looks like she does crafts.
Fenfarel, with great concern on his face, puts his left hand up as a railing to guide her down with, and then places his right hand on her shoulder as she steps down, which glows with this bluish light as he casts Cure Wounds.
Yeah, let's roll to see how effective that is.
That's a critical failure.
Oh. Yeah, Saga feels your hand against her shoulder and winces in pain as you squeeze her wound.
Okay, that's okay. It's all right, my friend. After what happened here today, I'm just glad to be alive. Ooh. What do we have here? Hello, handsome shadow elf.
Well, what happened here?
The Sibulans, the Kluber and Coral clan specifically, they attacked this morning. Well, not the entire clans. It's not fair to vilify them all. Just a group of radicals. Misguided, surely. They traveled down from the north and ransacked the village before the townspeople woke. They're holding our tribal leader, Master Merle, captive in his tent right now, along with several of our children. The remaining townspeople are in the fishing shack to the south. I locked myself in this wardrobe to ensure I wasn't taken along with them.
Well, it seems to me that we must make sure these children are okay. Will you assist us in making sure we can evacuate them safely?
Of course. I'll aid however I can.
And at that, she walks over to her table and picks up a green wood wand with a yellow stone at the end.
This shall do nicely.
I'm sure you will explain that later. For now, I shall trust you. Time is of the essence. We must go save these children.
Yeah, where are they being kept?
In Master Moral's tent in the center of town.
Well, great. Let's go get them.
No, wait, Junk. Suppose we should have a course of action. If we just walk into that tent, we could risk a trap or endangering the lives of the captives.
That is my concern. I do not want to incite any violence against the prisoners there.
Saga, could you Tell us, what would they want with children?
I can only imagine it's a bargaining chip. You see, they want this port, and they want us to leave it. But I don't know who they hope to negotiate with, honestly.
And these Sibulans, they're dangerous?
Yes, they were so volatile when they arrived. I saw them violently shoving our people into the shack, and so naturally, like any sane person, I locked myself in a wardrobe, so I'm unsure what truly has occurred beyond that. I can only pray, Master Moral, and the children are still alive.
All right, well, we're spending a lot of time here talking about it.
Junk is very bothered by this scenario because, of course, it reminds him of the time his own village was ransacked and bad things happened. And so he's sort of irritated that nobody's doing anything yet. And he is going to walk headstrong out of the tent.
Junk. we mustn't be too rash. Remember, rash decision making can result in horrible things.
Yeah, you know what else can result in horrible things? My warhammer.
Finfarrell goes and stands next to Junk.
I'm afraid Mr. Junk is correct. If we are to succeed in this endeavor, we must act.
I do agree with you. I understand saving the children first is of the utmost importance, but at the same time, we do not know what we're up against here. We really should go check out the fishing shack, free the villagers, and see, they might be able to help us against the captors of these children.
Or perhaps they can create a distraction.
My fear is that if word gets out that the villagers have been rescued, the children and our leader are going to be in a much, much worse position.
I agree with Finfarrell. The kids are the priority.
What are we going to do with these children once we set them free and it's only us, 5 against however many Sibulans are in this tent?
Saga has been wounded. I would not ask her to fight any more battles today. Once we have liberated the children, I believe if we send her with them, they will be able to find safety together.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that children are so weak and feeble.
Perhaps we can create a distraction with another way, then.
What do you have in mind?
Junk pulls the torch out and goes,
Set something on fire?
No, well, that's
actually not a terrible
that's not
idea.
a terrible idea either.
Wow.
Junk, you are full of good ideas today.
I was thinking of perhaps the animals.
Yes.
I don't want to set the animals on fire.
I'm not suggesting that, Junk.
Well, perhaps I can speak with Elliot and see if he is willing to help us in our cause.
Finfarrell goes over to Elliot and the rest and has a frank and open dialogue with them about responsibility, duty, community, and wants to see if they are willing to help.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a persuasion roll because they're animals. So you should maybe roll for animal handling.
Hot 5.
When speaking with Elliot and the other lopers, they all look at you like when animals make confused faces, they're all cocking their heads at you. Like, I think we understand, and they await your decision to release them from their stalls. And at that time, they will act in however they feel like they've been commanded to act.
Finfarrell finishes his little speech to the lopers with this swell and says,
"And today, my friends, we shall know victory!"
and unfurls the gates to let them out.
And when the gates open, 3 of the lopers, including Elliot, run with an odd sense of purpose. They head directly up the steps that lead to the top of Sansi's stone wall, as if to stand watch for enemies, despite not actually having the intelligence to carry this out. The rest of them run in several different directions. A small medicus tent sits to the right of the stables, and one of the lopers plows through it, taking the old canvas with it like it dressed itself like a clumsy ghost for Halloween. This commotion stirs the attention of a Sibulan from within the leader's tent. She is a blue-scaled rogue holding a pair of twin Jita. She emerges from the tent and first notices the rampaging loper. Then she spots the party, like all standing by the stables, and she's about to engage, but then she notices how outnumbered she is, and she starts to run back to the tent.
As she turns, Finfarrell reaches up in a panic and snaps towards the snake woman.
Perhaps your energy is sapped from mending Orny's classes, but your attempt to blind the rogue fails as she disappears within the tent.
That might have been a better plan if we had hid.
Oh yeah, they definitely know we're here now.
Yes, I'm afraid it seems that ship has sailed.
Hey, Scamp.
Yes, boss.
Can you run and check out that tent? I want to see what's inside.
All right, I'll look ahead for you.
And Scampersand runs down Junk's arm and leaps from his hand. He finds a corner of the tent on the north side where he can slip through the flaps. When he enters, he finds the leader of Sansi village, an old elven man, sitting in a chair. He's being held captive by a large, muscular coral Sibulan warrior who's holding an Arumi whip sword. A blue Kaluber Sibulan mage is to the left, holding a floating silver casting orb. He presides over a group of huddled elven children being held in the center of the room. Some are crying, others have wet themselves, not being permitted the luxury of using the restroom. On the south side of the tent, a pair of coral Sibulans stand guard as well. One is a female rogue, the other is a male mage with a staff. They're being spoken to by the same female Kaluber rogue that you saw from before. She looks panicked.
So Junk, seeing this through Scampersand's eyes, turns to the party.
I see the children. They're in there. They're being guarded by a lot of snake people.
I still don't think it's a good idea to go in there without a plan, even more so now.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe you're right.
And he thinks to Scampersand,
Hey, get back here, buddy.
Scampersand indeed runs back to you, thrilled to be of service to you.
Okay, so if we need a plan, then what's the plan?
Do you remember the sparkling shield of light that I used for Mr. Matson?
That's right.
Well, I can use that again for the children. No matter what happens, I will stand amongst them, I will cast the shield around us, and I will keep it there for as long as I can.
Fenfrel, it's such a joy to see magic used in such a kind-hearted way, but again, I do wish that we could free the townspeople to help us.
Junk sees the concern for the townspeople on Adeline's face and looks to Saga.
Saga, you said that the rest of the townspeople were being held in a fishing shack?
Yes, on the river to the south.
Okay, Scamp, I have another favor to ask.
Oh, good. I'm always happy to help.
Head to the water and find that shack. We want to see how and where exactly the townsfolk are being held.
All right away, boss.
And Scampersand leaps from Junk's shoulder, excited to again be of service. He runs south beneath a beautiful tree with cascading leaves on vine-like branches. He runs through a tent that appears to be a fletchery with crafted bows and arrows on display.
Wow.
On the other side of the tent, he finds a sixth Sibulan standing watch over a large wooden building. He's old and crusty in brown robes, and he also looks like he's in the middle of molting, like he's picking scabrous pieces of skin from his face while mumbling to himself. And Scamperson runs dangerously close to his legs before stopping abruptly before the building. There is a crystalline blue aura, like a force field, that stops him from proceeding any further.
Okay, Scamp has found them. They're being held behind some sort of mystical wall, and it's being guarded by a very old magic snake man.
Do you think the magic is tied to the magician? If we take him out, will the shield fall?
It's certainly a worthwhile idea.
Okay, you guys stay here in case anyone comes out of that tent. I'll handle the old mage and see if I can free the people.
I shall trust you to do this, sister.
Yeah.
You are very strong and your armor is very shiny.
Well, thank you, brother. I do my best. And with that, Adeline crouches and swiftly heads south, taking cover where she can to find the shack and the guard.
As soon as Adeline leaves, Fenferal takes a look around to try to see if he can find a more advantageous position, some cover perhaps. Nutty twins!
Nice.
Fenfril finds the most advantageous place to hide. Next to the leader of Sansi Village's tent are crates and barrels, many filled with potent hops and stenchy ragweed that can not only conceal you visibly, but also mask your odor.
Fenferal points over towards the ragweed barrels and goes,
We can mask our scents amongst the weed.
I think I see a little me-sized hidey hole over there as well.
So Junk takes cover along with Fenferal and Orny, and he thinks to Scamp.
Sit tight, buddy. Adeline's on her way.
I want to roll stealth, see if I can sneak past the front of the tent and hide on the other side in like a flanking position. 16.
Matson makes his way past the front of the tent miraculously without being seen and finds a flanking position using the tree with the aforementioned draping branches as cover. And at first you think your skill alone in stealth allowed you to accomplish this feat, but you are stunned to find Saga Talajak right behind you when you reach your final position.
A good old muffled spell silences our steps. And at last, we're alone.
And meanwhile, Adeline is ducking in and out of tents in the center of town, heading south. She navigates through a blacksmith shop filled with beautiful ornate daggers, by a traveling wagon with tent filled with bizarre artifacts and curiosities, and finally she makes her way through the same fletchery that Scampersand made him his way through before.
Adeline looks around at all of these beautiful elven bows. We'll definitely be coming back here, and she proceeds forward.
And the second you peer out through the tent flaps, you see that you are directly across from the building with the force field and across from the elder Sibulan.
Adeline quickly crouches behind the tent's opening and draws her bow.
I'm going to need for you to roll a stealth check to see if he notices your movements.
That's 12.
Yeah, he indeed does not see you, but you are now close enough that you can make out more detail about him. He is holding a lantern that is emitting a orange smoky mist.
So Adeline lifts up her bow and arrow, steady, no nerves, and uses her eagle eye to try and aim for the lantern he's holding, since it seems like the source of this spell. So 14 for 8.
Adeline looses her arrow, and it flies through the air and makes contact directly with this mage's lantern and pins the lantern to the door right in front of him. The old man looks startled by this occurrence and turns, but you see no change to the magical shield around the entire building. And he's looking around like, where did that come from? He is very feeble, and he has not spotted you yet.
Okay, Adeline quickly ducks back into the Fletcher's tent, just very disappointed at this point. I really had hoped that would work. She pulls out an arrow from her quiver and just aims for his shoulder, trying to bring him down. 15 for 4.
When Adeline appears through the corner of the tent again to shoot, the old man actually does see you. And your arrow flies right past him, narrowly missing him. And he starts crying out, "Help! Help!" And he starts running back towards the tribal leader's tent to join the others.
Okay, I shoot again for penning shot. 18 for 2.
The old Sibulan barely gets a couple of feet before Adeline's arrow strikes him in the back of the calf through the front of his shin, pinning him to the ground. He is not strong enough to free himself, so he shouts again, "Help! Help!" And everyone can hear this, and Matson and Saga specifically have a very clear view of what's happening right in front of them.
Adeline just rushes straight for him to kick him in the face and try and knock him out.
The old Sibulan looks over to see the woman who just shot him to the ground, bounding towards him. Her heel boot striking him in the face is the last thing he sees before he is knocked unconscious. Oof. As Adeline stands over him, Matson and Saga, who are only like 20 feet away by their tree, exchange a look like, that could have gone better.
Adeline looks over to them and shrugs. Saga, do you know how to bring down the magic that's keeping these townsfolk trapped?
If I had to assume, I would say it's being conjured by one of the mages within the tent. I fear that soul guard was simply bolstering its power.
So seeing all of this happen through Scampersand and seeing that the shield has not gone away, Junk turns to Fenferal.
Well, Adeline took out the guard, but the magic is still intact.
Perhaps the source of the shield is elsewhere.
Adeline meant well, but we're back to where we started. It's us and the tent people.
You're right. We must act now.
Fenferal stands up and starts to walk very determinedly towards the front of the tent.
Before leaving cover, Junk quickly pulls out a blow dart from his pack and turns to Orny.
Hey, Orny, I snagged this blow dart back in Dagra. Any idea what it does?
I don't. However, blow darts have been enchanted to do any number of crazy things.
Well, then let's find out what crazy thing this one does. What do you say?
Are you coming?
Absolutely.
Junk summons Scampersand back to him, smiles at Fenferal, and stands up to join him. He's enjoying this all a little bit.
Orny follows as well.
As Matson sees this happening, he's going to go around to the other end, sneak around the back of the tent, and he motions for Saga to come with him.
And she does.
As Matson does that, I sneak over to a vantage point near the Elven armory.
Fenferal starts walking towards the front of the tent and places his hand on his throat once more, and it glows with that orange energy as he says,
"Fear not, children. Fear not, mortal. We are here, and we are your salvation."
He makes a beeline to the center of the kids' circle, and as soon as he gets there, he's going to thrust his staff down and cast that shield.
So you're going to need to roll 2 dex saves and 1 wisdom save.
7 and a 13. Wisdom, that's going to be a 17.
Just as Fenferal runs in, he is assaulted by Lissa, the blue Kalupa rogue with the twin Jita, He anticipates this and ducks beneath her strike and continues on. Next, Revel, the coral rogue, hurls a pair of razor-edged chakram and draws lines of blood across your shoulders for 4 damage. Chard, the coral hydramage, he crafts a giant ball of water to trap you within, but you willfully charge through it before it is fully formed, soaking yourself, rolling and landing in the center of the endangered children.
Nice.
Fenfarrell is wet, but you see him grin as he looks up, having planted his staff in the center of the circle. This blue light emanates out of the tip of the staff in a dome surrounding all of them.
With your shield fully formed, Tonic, the leader of the Sibulans, holding the Arumi whip sword, he stands to face you and he says,
Who are you? Are you here to negotiate your surrender?
I'm afraid the only surrender will be yours, friend. Unless this is where you'd like to die. If so, make peace with your god.
I say, make peace with your own.
and with that, he takes out a small dagger and he places it against the neck of the tribal leader, Moral.
Junk rushes into the tent with the aforementioned blow dart. He aims directly at him and blows with all his might.
I need you to do a dex check and also a clumsy check.
No! That is a 10. And my clumsy roll is a 6.
So just as he's about to slice the throat of Moral, Junk blows a dart, not well at Tonic, but enough that it lands squarely in Tonic's knee. Tonic stops. He looks down, looks back at you.
I don't know what that was supposed to.
And right when he says that, there's a puff of smoke, and suddenly Tonic is a beef pot pie.
Wait, like a little one or
like a little beef pot pie.
Junk is absolutely flabbergasted. He has no idea what just happened or why that happened. He looks to Fenfarrell and whispers, "Did you just see that?"
Fenfarrell is wide-eyed and completely in disbelief.
So are all the Sibulans. They just watched their leader, his amazing whip sword, clatter on the ground, the knife clatter on the ground in front of Moral, and between him, a steaming, ready-to-eat beef pot pie is just sitting in the place of where their leader once was.
Junk turns to the other guards and with a sudden sense of bravado says,
"Yeah, that's right. I can turn you all into delicious treats and let these kids go."
Yeah, you'll have to roll for deception.
Monson, who is still on the in the back of the tent on the outside, hears Junk say he's going to turn them into tasty treats, and he's like, "What the fuck is going on there?"
Is that a common threat where he comes from?
I have no idea.
I rolled a 3 with a -3.
Oh no.
So that's 0.
Yeah, so they're not having it. And Haj, the now default leader of this sect of Sibulans, yells, "Kill them!" Fenfarrell, Junk, and Orny all have to roll for initiative.
It's going to be a 13.
And an 11 for Junk.
Incited by Haj's command, Revel, the coral rogue, unleashes her throwing chakra upon Junk, slicing into his arms and critical hitting for a massive 12 damage. Further, this pair of chakra were acid-coated and will deal 1 HP of burning corrosive damage to Junk each turn until his condition is healed.
You know what? We're not friends now.
And then it's Fenfarrell.
Fenfarrell looks around at the children around him, rises from his sort of kneeling position, holding this glowing blue dome like an umbrella over everyone.
Children, move with me.
So very slowly, baby steps at a time, without taking his eyes off of the battle ensuing in the tent, Fenfarrell steps slowly towards the entrance with this crowd of children.
And the children are more than happy to follow Fenfarrell. Lissa, the blue Kaluba rogue, witnesses their bargaining chip walk out the door, and she looks incensed. She places her twin Jita together in front of her like a prayer. Instantly, she vanishes in a puff of black smoke.
Oh, great. She killed herself.
And it's Junk's turn to act.
Before Junk acts, actually, Matsun, hearing that the battle has begun, takes this opportunity to take out his dagger and cut a hole through the tent, hopefully in an attempt to sneak in.
And that will definitely require another stealth roll.
Whew, that's a 25.
Wow.
Matsun would have done this incredibly stealthily on his own, but he is also aided by Saga's proficiency in magic, buffing your stealth and reducing the noise you make, slicing through old canvas without making any noise at all. When you emerge on the other side, you find yourself directly behind Haj, the mage with the floating orb, and he has not noticed you. And yet, you have entered the battle, and thus it completes your action. So it is Junk's turn to act, and he begins his turn being sapped 1 health from his acid damage.
All right, so Junk probably should turn and ask Orny for some help, but he's not entirely aware of just how hurt he is. So instead, he directs his attention to the coral mage, and he is going to take a big ol' swing of his war hammer for armor break.
Okay.
That is a 6 for 12 damage.
Chard holds up his staff to block Junk's crushing overhand blow, but he just finds himself completely outclassed in strength. The 9-headed smasher makes contact with the mage's upper back and brings him decisively down to the ground, rendering his armor useless. Chard struggles to pull himself up, using his staff like a cane, and he's whispering in this ancient Sibulan tongue, and magically coats himself in a slick, watery substance.
What are you doing? Why are you all wet?
Wouldn't you like to know?
And right after this happens, the Sansi village leader Moral, seated between the fallen knife that nearly slit his throat and the freshly baked beef pot pie, decides to grab the knife and stab into the beef pot pie just to make sure. On Haj's turn, he continues to not notice Matson standing right behind him, perhaps because he was working on this spell. He raises his arms in the air and brings them back down with this great force. This action is accompanied by a putrid green mist that starts filling the air. Anyone in the tent not within Fenferal's shield will take poison damage on their turn until the cloud dissipates.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
On Orny's turn to act, he reaches into his bag and pulls out a potion of cure condition. He saw what happened to Junk, and he decides to throw it at his big green buddy.
Drink this, bitch.
and throws it at Junk. Junk catches it in his hand, pulls the cork out with his teeth, and knocks back this bottle to cure his acid.
Thanks, little buddy.
With the green mist filling the air, Revel pulls 2 more chakram out of her bandolier with the intention of putting Junk down. She throws terribly, however. The poison clouding her vision, her projectiles end up just cutting through and exiting the tent. And thus, it is Fenferal's turn to act.
Fenferal holds his quarterstaff over the children like an umbrella and reaches into a little pouch on his belt and unfurls this little scroll. As he reads it aloud, muttering under his breath, his eyes start to burn orange, and you see runes on the page start to burn orange as well. The green cloud of poison in the air starts to dissipate, burning up with orange sparkles and cracks. And Haj's mist has been dispelled.
Nice.
Haj frowns, watching his fog dissipate that damaged exactly 0 people. But Lissa is back for revenge. She reappears in a puff of black smoke inside of Fenferal's shield. Her sudden presence frightens the children as the last of them exit the tent, and she brings her Jita down upon Fenferal for light but painful 3 HP damage. And it is Matson's turn to act.
So I'm still behind this guy, Haj. I want to assassinate him. I want to slit his throat. 12.
Haj, contemplating what to do after his last spell was so quickly dispelled, feels the cold iron of a misnearied stabber against his throat. Matson's cut is quick and brutal, and Haj bleeds out as he drops to his knees. Luckily, no children are around anymore to witness the gore. Haj's casting orb shatters against the ground, and from Adeline's vantage, she sees the force field holding the remaining villagers fall and shatter like it were also made of glass.
Adeline, seeing this, decides to run over and open up the shack.
When Adeline runs over there, she doesn't need to open the shack as it is being kicked open now by the people of the town. What's happened? What's happened with the Sibulans? They're all asking you so many questions. Like, are our children all right? What happened to Moral? What's going on? Who are you?
Don't worry. I'm a friend of Fenferal. I'm here to help. Well, actually, I'm a sister, but it's a long story. If you're handy with a weapon, come with me. And I head back to the tent in hopes they'll follow me.
And some of them are going to follow you over to survey the tent. Others have spotted their children who are running in various directions and are greeting them with open arms, just thrilled that they're still alive.
Aw.
All those warm fuzzies are happening around Adeline, but back in the tent, With Haj slain, Saga has fully entered the tent and she is pointing her wand threateningly towards the remaining Sibulans.
It's Sibulans like you who make it hard for our kind to coexist peacefully. You deserve all of which will happen to you today.
Then a force of unseen, almost telekinetic energy travels from her wand to Revel and pushes her back against the south wall of the tent for 10 damage.
Like that! You deserve that!
And it is Junk's turn to act.
So Junk turns to the Sibulan he's been fighting, currently covered in water, unsure of why they're covered in water. Nonetheless, just going to go for another overhand smash down onto him. That is a 3 for 9 damage.
So Junk brings his Warhammer down upon Chard a second time. However, the magic that he casts upon himself has made him impossibly slick. So your Warhammer slides off of his body in such a way that you end up striking yourself for half damage.
Oh, no.
So you strike yourself for half of 9. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. We'll give you 4.
Ah, damn it. You know, I really wish you guys would have gotten to hat sales. It is a much kinder profession.
I don't get your reference. Chard turns his attention to Matson, who needs to give me a wisdom saving roll.
That is a natural 20.
Chard flashes his eyes at you and starts to move his body in a almost dance-like way. However, he notices that his spell isn't working on you, and he's sort of like, well, shit. Like his attempt to hypnotize you failed in this moment.
My Matson, handsome, deadly with a blade, and can handle himself against magic, much like my wand. Consider me enchanted.
Matson is repulsed by this, not only because this is like a wrinkly old lady, but also because she's a regular elf, and Matson would never get with one of them.
You know it's trouble when Orny wants to hit someone with his cudgel. He sees Revel sitting on the ground. He runs up to her and strikes her for a hearty 9 damage right in her kneecaps, right as she's trying to stand up. She curses and looks at him like, how are you this strong? Like, I don't understand.
At this point, Adeline's actually made it back to the tent. She's at the opening, and she just immediately draws her bow with a poison arrow aiming at Revel. 16 for 4 damage.
Adeline's arrow finds its mark soundly in Revel's shoulder for 4 damage. Revel looks down and she pulls her arrow out. She smiles to herself, seeing the poison on its tip. As a Coral Sibulan, they are poisoned themselves, and she has an immunity to poison.
Oh.
And it is Fenfurl's turn.
Fenfurl whips around as blood splatters from his shoulder wounds. Looking this snake woman right in the eye, he reaches his hand up to grasp her throat. As he does so, the shield above him shatters into a million little shards of blue that fall around them.
That is quite enough.
Suddenly, purple and black energy emanates from his hand as he tries to inflict wounds upon her.
Ooh.
12 damage.
Lissa winces in pain when Fenfrel puts his hands upon her. Inflict wounds causes painful internal hemorrhaging. This has become an intense duel for Lissa, and fire burns in her eyes. And I need you to roll a defense check.
That's a hot 3.
Hot 3!
Lissa strikes Fenfrel across his chest and gut for 2 damage, weakened and yet hissing with rage. This action creates distance between you both, and it is Matson's turn to act.
Matson sizes up the remaining threats and is going to go after Revel, the rogue, with a standard attack. That is a 12 attack for 8 and 1.
After the blow from Saga, the cudgeling from Orny, and the arrow from Adeline, 2 quick strikes from Matson weaken Revel to the point of severe damage. She shoves Matson away, and then Saga points her wand at Revel again and blasts her cleanly through the wall of the tent, where she loses consciousness on the outside. Saga then turns to Matson, excited by their teamwork, and in the heat of the moment, she closes her eyes and she leans in for a kiss, hoping you'll bridge the distance, Matson.
I just give her a nod.
All right, sexy. Maybe next time.
After that, it is Junk's turn.
Junk raises his warhammer, looking like he's going to strike the slippery mage again, but then remembering what happened last time, calls a quick audible, turns to the rogue who's in Fenferel's grasp and takes a huge swing directly at her back and is using armor break.
Okay.
That is 13 for 9 damage.
Lissa is both being held prone by Fenferel and has her attention to him. So when Junk comes along and strikes her in the side, it knocks her all the way to the ground with a heavy 18 damage.
Ooh.
She struggles to regain her composure, nearly incapacitated. And with Junk's back to him, it is now Chard's turn, and he casts Prison of Water, causing a large bubble of water to form around Junk that both imprisons and suffocates.
What the hell is this? Get me out of here. I'm in a bubble. Guys, do you see this crap? I'm in a bubble.
Don't waste your breath. It's suffocating you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
With that, Orny hastily withdraws his last Frost Poultice and chucks it at Chard, and the water mage becomes frozen solid. Not yet finished, Orny then runs at Chard with his cudgel and shatters him with a heavy blow. Similarly, that orb that Junk is in, it freezes solid as well, and when the mage is shattered, the orb breaks apart as well, freeing Junk from his prison.
Junk falls to the ground, breaking from this ice ball, and you'll notice that he's panicking to put on his Grothlat, the hat that allows us to breathe underwater.
Oh my god. Well, thanks, Orny. I couldn't get this thing on.
And it is Fenferel's turn to act with a prone Lissa at his feet.
Fenferel raises her up as much as he can by the collar of her clothing and says sincerely and kindly, and so only she can hear it,
Is this truly where you wish to die?
I care not where I die, only that I die as a warrior.
That is not what I asked.
You see her eyes dart over to the fallen Revel and the fallen old man, and she whispers back to you.
Will you let us leave? Will you let us leave? We promise to never return.
Fenferel steps back and says to his friends,
I believe this fight is over.
motions to Moral.
Do you have any final words for your adversaries this day?
Moral has walked out of the tent, and he's carrying the beef pot pie with the knife in it. He hands it to Lissa. We've been very clear with your people. You can share the Softlands with us, but not Sansi village. Be gone. He hands her the beef pot pie. She takes it humbly and walks over to Revel, who's knocked out as well, and starts to slumber over her shoulder. There are a few other incited villagers who are looking to Moral with irritation in their eyes, like they want blood for what has occurred.
Fenferel goes over to the group of snake people, one slumped over the shoulder and two kind of hobbling. He looks out to the crowd of people, showing their ire, I'm sure, and he says,
Let us be better than the enemies we fear.
And he places two hands on the two that are down and heals them a little bit.
Do not make me rethink this kindness.
The two Sibulan women nod at you, more Lissa than Revel, as Revel is still pretty out of it. The aged Sibulan man, however, has come to as well, and he is nursing his bleeding leg, and he's nodding more profusely than either of them, like, I want to be anywhere but here. He was like, I was just here to support. I didn't know anyone was going to boot me in the face. He looks back to Adeline in the distance like a wounded dog, like, never around her again. And they nod, and they start to wander off, limping, but pleased that you healed them.
Matson shakes his head at this act of what he perceives as weakness on behalf of the elves.
Junk is at this point walking out of the tent. He actually didn't really get to witness any of this stuff because he was picking fine pieces of ice out of his wolf pelt, and he walks over to Fenferel and the crowd, and he goes,
What's going on? Where did they go?
Fenferel puts a hand on Junk's shoulder and says,
They've gone home.
and as he does, his hand lights up with that orange-yellow light and heals you. Oh yeah, for a hot 8.
And Junk is healed for 8 hit points.
Junk feels this sensation, and it's a little bizarre, but he appreciates it.
That helps. Thank you.
You are very welcome, my friend.
Moral, who has just finished having a discussion with Saga nearby, walks over to you guys and says, Fenferel, it's so pleasing that you have brought these friends who have aided us in our time of need.
Yes, Master Moral, it is like The gods have provided once again.
I shall speak highly of this to your father. You have clearly become a very proficient cleric.
Thank you. I wish only to make our people proud. Please, do not count your experiences today against the Sibulans as a people. You must understand that these were not the actions of a race as a whole, but of individuals, you see.
Fenfarel, you have a kind heart, and it is a strength, and I will consider your words. These are difficult times.
Just remember, as my father always says, violence is not strength. Compassion is not weakness. We are stronger when we are better, Master Moral.
Yes, I've heard your father say that on a number of occasions. For the rest of you, if you would like to make yourselves at home in our village, there are many artisans who could aid you in your forthcoming quest.
Master Moral, also offer them your infamous hospitality. Sansi soup is the greatest soup you have ever tasted. This I tell you now.
Junk's eyes light up at the thought of more soup.
Oh boy, really? Oh man, a steaming serving of some Sansi signature soup sounds stupendous after such a scrap with those slithery Sibulans.
Oh.
What's in it?
Little chunks of potato and meat, little vegetable that they have, what is it you call minced? They have minced the vegetable, tiny, tiny pieces. It's decadence.
There's not hamster testicles in there, is there?
Oh, I suppose I have never asked. This is a very specific ingredient.
Oh, it's so good.
All right, I suppose maybe we should ask Master Moral. He would probably have an answer for these.
No, there are no hamster testicles.
Well, there's your answer.
Well, I'm sure it's still delightful.
Junk turns and walks towards all the townsfolk, nursing his wounds.
And the townspeople look at this half-orcan that they've never seen before in their life with great fascination and curiosity. And as this happens, Saga walks over to Matson. She's putting her wand away, and she saddles up beside him.
We make a pretty good team, don't you think? Why don't you walk me back to my hut, and I can show you my enchanting table?
Matson is still very much turned off by this woman, but will never pass an opportunity to up his magic inventory, so he says, I do have this wand I haven't been able to use.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sure we'll find a use for your wand just yet.
Adeline walks over to Fenfarel. Those words you spoke to Moral, you've spoken them before, and they're so inspiring. I'm so glad you had a father who could instill such wisdom in you, and I wish I had had the same.
Truly, I have been blessed. It is not lost upon me, but your strength is your own. I see this in you.
Oh, sorry.
No, of course you are. It is funny because we both want to say something, and then we both are like, no, you go.
Oh, that's very sweet of you to say. You know, I feel like most of my strength comes from what I learned from Charles, and I have a lot to learn before I'm as wise as you. Frankly, I'm just glad you're going to be with us on this journey to Brayfrost.
And he smiles kind of weakly at her and says,
I fear my influence may be necessary here. The Sibulans, my people, they are at a bit of a crossroads, and a gentle hand is needed to guide them if we are to avoid conflict in the future.
Okay, yeah. You know, selfishly, it does sadden me a bit, but you know what? I get it. I understand. As great as you would be by our side, I know you're going to do so much more here, and they need you. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just so proud and grateful to have a part of my bloodline that I'm not ashamed of, that is strong.
My sister, my heart is full that you are so filled with pride by knowledge of my existence, but I cannot claim that I deserve such an honor. I simply do what is necessary.
and he looks up into her eyes and says, as I see you do too.
You know what? There's no need for goodbyes. No need for this. The day's young. Why don't we have food and drink, and you can give us a tour, and we can catch up. We have a lot to do of it, my brother.
We most certainly do, my sister. Come, let us join the others. Hey, everyone! I've got a sister!
Well, I think that'll do it for our Chapter 7 Wow, what an adventure! This whole chapter has been just nonstop fun. Junk turned a guy into a pie.
That was awesome.
You sure did.
Highlight of the season. That was so amazing.
Highlight of the season.
Highlight.
This was an absolute blast. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us.
Of course. Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
me.
You were so great. Fen Farrell is one of my favorites.
So fun.
Please check out his other shows, Ride or Dice, as well as Welcome to the Dungeon Hole. You host Ride or Dice.
That's correct.
And then you are an additional player in Welcome to the Dungeon Hole.
Doubly correct.
And I can only assume that they are all just as hilarious and fantastic as you were today. Thank you again so much for doing that. Paul, what do we get for our outing today?
For defeating 6 crazy Sibulans, you all walk away with a handy 600 XP.
5,100.
5100, and our next level up is in 900 points.
And I have to say, none of you had to fight Tonic because he got turned into a pie.
Mm-hmm.
So great.
But he was difficult.
I believe it.
That's why I aimed for him. Well, once again, thank you guys so much for joining us and for listening. We'll do a little bit of the business here. Make sure that you are following at D&DW Pod on all social media. And make sure you check out dndwpod.com, where you'll see some stuff that you're not seeing in the podcast feed or on social media, as well as you can check out character art, maps, all that fun stuff. And you can click contact, shoot us an email, tell us your D&D stories, tell us your thoughts on our adventure, tell us about your own adventures, and we'll read them and we'll converse with you in our roundtable episodes. We love the community that we're building here, and we really appreciate everybody who's been engaging. And, of course, leaving reviews on iTunes. Yes, please make sure you are leaving a rating and review for Dungeons & Dragon Wagon on iTunes. And another great way that you can help the show, the best way, honestly, head over to dragonwagonshop.com and pick up some fantastic Dungeons & Dragon Wagon merchandise. There are great shirts and mugs, all for you to support your favorite podcast while touting your podcast pride and looking super fine, if I might say so. Thank you once again, Andrew, so much. You have been absolutely fantastic. I am going to miss Fen Farrell so very much. Paul, say goodbye to the people.
So long.
Alexandra.
Bye.
Matthew.
Ciao.
Andrew.
Adios.
And on behalf of everybody here at Dungeons & Dragon Wagon, we will see you next quest. A very special thank you to Sarah Martellaro, who gave voice to Paul's NPC, Saga. Please find Sarah on Instagram at Sarah Martellaro and check out her YouTube. It's Sarah and Camille. There's a ton of fantastic videos. Thanks again, Sarah, and we appreciate it.
It's Dragon Wagon.
Horny makes me horny.
Welcome back to the show. This is Dungeons and Dragons Wagon.
Today we're learning about how sexy dragons get going with the lady friends.
Roll for foreplay.
Roll for intimacy problems.
Oh, that's a nat 20. Those are going to be lifelong, baby.
Oh, critical failure. You came in your trousers.
All right.
Oh, boy.
This is the show now.